Hot dog. Hot dog.
What's going on, y'all? Poke Random Browns in here. Hey, you guys ever heard of Jerkmate? Wait, sorry, wrong script. You guys ever hear this little indie game called Schedule 1? No, it's just this little game about slinging doinks, building up a network of doink boinkers, advancing up to rock candy and boogie sugar. And as someone who plays an alarming amount of these, become a kingpin of a totally legal business empire, I'm not sure when we can start using the colorful language on YouTube, so we're gonna keep dancing around the obvious word. Games, Schedule 1's gotta be the king of the mountain right now, but the game's still in pretty early access, and it can always be better. So I've been sitting down and thinking about some of the things that I would love to see added to the game, basically since I got it. Now, I'm aware that there is a full roadmap for the game, and I'm super excited about pretty much everything on there, and I'm sure that some of my ideas are gonna overlap with that, but these are just the ideas that I've had while on stream or playing the game that I'd really like to see. Now that's the other big caveat. These are things that I, personally, would like to see. Some of these ideas might be kinda silly or goofy. I might even have a dumb idea on here, but I've been known to like things that are silly, goofy, and or dumb. Hopefully, you will like some of my ideas, but if you think they're all stinkers, well, let's be cool about it, okay? I'm not Tyler. Relax, this is just for funsies. Cool if Tyler saw this video, but that's just because I can be a vain prick sometimes. Has it been long enough? Can I say prick? Fuck it, we're using the fun language. I got 7 big ideas, so let's dive into this shit. The first thing on my list that I would love to see the most are new shops. We've all been walking around Highland Park and seen them there. Pillville, Bud's Bar, Sauerkraut Pizza, all these perfectly good stores and shops in town that you cannot spend money in. Well, why the fuck not? We got the boutique and the pawn shop added. I say that we can open up a lot more of these stores, and to give you a reason to visit them, I say that we give each of them a unique mixing ingredient with a unique effect. So for example, Randy's Bait and Tackle. Probably already gonna open up once fishing gets put in the game. Side note, fucking love that. But I think that adding fish food or chum or worms or something like that as a mixer would be great. The effect could be that it gives the smoker fish gills or some shit like that. For Highland Medical, we could add morphine, which can make the consumer float around. Actually, I had 2 ideas for the French bistro. First, I've got an escargot, which would give you like these big snail eyes, but then maybe you could also do wine, which would give you the Frenchie effect. What is the Frenchie effect? It gives you a beret and a pencil mustache, silly. I don't know, maybe your legs become baguettes or something stupid like that. Crimson Canary. Sounds like a bar. I think I've got a better idea for that. We'll circle back to it. Now the Butter Box, it could sell like coffee, which could make you move faster. Maybe you can also sell espresso, which would make the consumer jittery as a motherfucker, like it makes the model vibrate and shit. The supermarket really does feel like the most obvious location to open up for me, and maybe they can even have like a rotating stock of food items depending on what day of the week it is. But I limited myself to 1 ingredient for this, and I went with truffles, which would give the consumer like a little pink snout and a little curly tail. I think that would be fucking adorable. Weirdly enough, I wasn't actually able to think of anything for the slop shop, which is really weird because it's a diner. You think I'd have been able to come up with something for that, easy peasy. But it does give me the opportunity to do that YouTuber thing and say, what mixer do you think would go great in the slop shop? Leave that in the comments down below. I'm not even gonna re-record that line, baby. Yeehaw! Taco Tickler feels like another super obvious one. Obviously the mixer for that would be that they sell you tacos, but for the effect, I think it would be really fun if it gave you a lucha mask. I think it would be even better if everyone in town had their own unique lucha libre mask that they poof into after smoking that shit. I thought that maybe you can also add a burrito that'll give the consumer like a sombrero or something, but I'm really not trying to have a repeat of the Tropic Thunder issue, so we'll move on. The Piss Hut and Bud's Bar could realistically have the same inventory, but I was able to come up with unique ones for each. Now the Piss Hut's a liquor store, so I gave them liquor, specifically whiskey, which I think would make someone breathe fire. I think that would be fun. Or tequila, which would give you the do you still love me effect. What is that effect? Easy. It stretches your face out to make you look like a worm because I need to know if he'd still love me if I was a fuck-mothering worm. Right, that Bud's Bar would focus entirely on beer. I was thinking a stout that would leprechaun you, aka make you smaller and give you a funny ginger beard, but it would also sell light beer, which would make you turbo piss. Like in Postal 2. because wee-hoo. At first I was having difficulty with sauerkraut pizza until I realized that sauerkraut pizza is super easy. Sell a pizza that gives you a thick mustache and a chef hat. Then sell sauerkraut that makes you fat and puts you in lederhosen. Bing bang boom. The last shop I've got on here is Pillville, which admittedly I also struggled to come up with an ingredient for, mostly because I'd already come up with morphine, but this would obviously be a great place to stick all your medical mixers, maybe even do like a rotating inventory like I suggested for the grocery store. Oh wait, here's an ingredient, do cough syrup that turns you purple. So yeah, I'm sure I missed a shop or two, but you get the general gist of my idea here. Now, I said I'd circle back to the Crimson Canary, which again, sounds like it would be a bar. But, you know what it also kind of sounds like it could be? You should make that a pet shop. Yeah, I think they should add pets to the game, and I think that pets can have a few purposes. First, and arguably most importantly, great cosmetic. Who doesn't want a dog or a cat or maybe even something weird like a goat hanging around the house? But I don't think they just serve a cosmetic purpose. So I know that one of the things that Tyler wants to add to the game is an employee that's going to move shit from one safe house to another. I think that pets could be a really fun way of going about that. Stick the dog in a little sweater vest, stick some bricks of meth in a little sweater vest, don't question it, and send the fella on his way. That'd be the most adorable way to traffic drugs. But that's not the main mechanic I imagine for the pets, actually. So Tyler also mentioned that they wanted to make the police deeper in the game, like start having raids on your properties and shit at some point. I think that the pets would make a perfect alarm system for that. Like maybe 2 minutes before the raid starts, your dog starts barking like fucking crazy. I don't know, maybe depending on how often the raids happen, that would get super annoying after a while, but I think that would be a really fun way to make pets like actually useful in a game about dealing drugs. Why else do you think every fucking drug dealer has a dog? Come on now. My next little section here is devoted to mini-games, because mini-games are what make Schedule 1 more fun than, let's say, Drug Dealer Simulator or Weed Shop 3, to me personally. I love the little mini-games that you gotta do to cook the drugs and package your shit up. I'm also pretty fond of the casino in the game. I also love that there's Pong and shit like that in the game. I think there's a lot of room for more shit like that. The first and most obvious, we have a casino in the game that doesn't have poker. Now, I love me some Ride the Bus, but not having poker in a casino is kind of like not having skee-ball in your arcade. You're technically allowed to do that, but why the fuck would you do that? Everyone expects you to have it. Another super obvious one is to open up the shooting range and stick some challenge runs in there, which I think is already on the roadmap. But something I think would be fun is to have like unique gun skins as a reward for doing those challenges. I don't know anyone my age that would not grind out some shooting challenges to become the man with the golden gun. We all grew up on GoldenEye. That shit would be sick. The next thing I've got here is adding some carnival games, but that's gonna be one of them secret Mousca-tools for later, so we're gonna circle back to it. So this would probably be a very late addition to the game, but there's an arcade right there that you can do all sorts of shit with. Now, like, the obvious choice would be to load it up with, like, arcade cabinets with, like, your own knockoffs of, like, Pac-Man or Dig Dug or some shit on there. And don't get me wrong, that would be dope, but that's not really what's in arcades anymore, is it? I think it would be fun to make this like a Dave and Buster's style arcade, you know? Crane games and those Chuck E. Cheese style gambling machines and coin sliders. Maybe throw in some skee-ball, the kind of games that would like give you tickets. In fact, they should actually give you tickets that you should be able to exchange for fun cosmetic shit, like clothes or stuff for your house. Maybe you can even add in like candies as mixers that you get at the prize counter. Oh, and pinball. Your boy is a slut for some video game pinball. Right, the last thing in this section, and probably the thing I would love to see most for the mini-games, is mini-games for your businesses. Now, I'm hardly the first person to bring this one up, I've seen it on Reddit a few times, but being able to actually run the businesses you pick up to some degree would be really cool. The obvious reward for that being able to launder more money after you do all the business crap you gotta do for the week. I feel like restocking is a no-brainer since most players end up with more money than they know what to do with. I can also picture mini-games where you gotta like wash a car or make tacos, or do someone's laundry, or even having to sort through mail. Now, I call it this next section, making money. I feel like it explains itself. Right off the top, on the topic of those business mini-games I just described, Maybe keeping the business restocked is how you get the laundering bonus, but then you can do like the job mini games like making tacos and shit to make a little extra money. Like you'll get X amount for every taco you make or something like that, right? I also think it would be really fun if you can invest in some of the businesses that exist in town, like not become a full owner, but become a partner. And those can come with some unique perks, instead of the ability to launder money. For example, if you invest in a gas station, then you get a discount on anything you buy at the gas station. If you invest in the boutique, then maybe you get like $1,000 a day or $1,000 a week or something like that. If you invest in the warehouse, then maybe you end up getting free bribes. I know that Tyler's got police bribes on the roadmap. Anyways, I feel like the most obvious way to make money, or at least be able to get more of that money in your bank account, is to add more businesses. But I'm not sure it should be that simple. Like, I don't think you should just buy them like the rest of the businesses. We all know that the cartel is coming. The cartel bomb your RV in the beginning of the game. The roadmap says that you're eventually gonna have to fight the cartel. Boy, I've referenced that roadmap a lot more than I thought I would. It only makes sense that the cartel would also have some businesses in town that act like fronts, just like you do. And I think it would be a lot of fun to include missions that would let you fuck with those businesses and eventually take them over. One example, Thompson's Construction and Demo. I think that is a fantastic place for a front. It could be a fantastic place for a front for the cartel. Once you discover it's a cartel front, you could like beat up the employees, smash up the job sites, damage their work trucks, interrupting shipments coming in and out of there, rubbing out the dealers that work through Thompson's until you've eventually done so much damage that they're forced to sell up, giving you one more lofty business in your laundering portfolio, and also unlocking a fun demolition minigame because you bet your sweet bippy I thought of a work minigame for that place. I also think that maybe like adding a trailer park you could run would be fun, but that's another one of those mystery mouse tools. We'll circle back to it. I promise it'll be worth it, folks. So we've had the money making section. I guess it only makes sense to have a money spending section afterward, because I don't know about you guys, but oh boy, I got some money laundering around, and I know I'm still on the broke-ass end of the Schedule 1 spectrum. Top thing on this list, lawyers, which could have easily been slotted into like 3 other sections in this video, but I digress. Since we know that the police system is going to be made deeper, we know that bribes are going to be added in and shit like that, it only makes sense to eventually add lawyers to the game as well, especially since there's already a lawyer's office in the game. Simplest way to use them would have them to be like any other employee, only instead of managing drugs, they manage your bribes. But it also would make sense if like the better your lawyer was, the less trouble you got in if you ever got arrested. Like for example, the cheap lawyer might be really good with the bribes, but if you get arrested, he can't help you. While like the best lawyer in the game would be able to get you your fucking drugs back. So then like obviously adding more clothing, hair, tattoos, decorations for your house, maybe even like wallpaper for the house and paint jobs for your car and shit like that, all of that would be hype. 100% should be added. Feel like it's gonna. I feel like it'd be fun to do like theme drops for these, right? The most obvious example would be holidays, like adding wintry stuff and Christmas trees for the holidays and adding spooky stuff for Halloween, shit like that. You can also have like a punk rock theme pack, or a steampunk theme pack, or a reggae Rasta style drop. Just give everything a little more focus instead of dropping random shit, you know what I mean? Speaking of vehicles, I want to see more vehicles in the game, but not just like different kinds of cars and skateboards and shit. Now I heard there's supposed to be long trucks. That is hype, but y'all, I heard that forklifts are gonna get added into the game, and I say we just open Pandora's box. I think there should be a shop that sells like bikes and scooters and motorcycles and shit. Maybe there's a shop that sells like dirt bikes and quads and other off-roady stuff. Have like one that sells go-karts and like golf cart stuff like that. Hell, stick a stand next to the skateboard that sells like razor scooters, right? At the very least, can we get a forklift with spinning rims? I've always wanted to see a forklift with spinning rims. And maybe some fuzzy dice too. Yeah, make like a really cool forklift. Next, I got a couple ideas for the TV. First of all, can we please add 2-player to Pong? I really want to play Pong with my friends. And speaking of Pong, I feel like an obvious one would be to have like another game or two for your TV that you could buy. You know, keep it Atari style. I'm thinking like Breakout would be the most obvious pick. But the main thing I'd love to see for the TV is a Weed Shop 3 style option where you can use the TV as a web browser. Now, I'm not saying it'd be easy. I'm not a video game programmer. I have no idea. But Weed Shop 3 shows me it's possible. And I would love to hop on Twitch and do like a YouTube night in Schedule 1 the way I used to do them in Weed Shop. Or have like a TV up in my main office that's always got cookie clicker going, or you know, something like that. Diving back into the realms of reality, adding the pawn shop has been fantastic, but I think that giving the pawn shop a rotating inventory would also be fantastic. Like, give the guy 4 or 5 items per sale a day, right? But what those items are would depend on the day of the week or the RNG gods. Like, I'm not saying you give him any exclusive mixers or anything, but I think it'd be great to give him some exclusive cosmetics. Then the last thing in this section, I would love to see 1 or 2 more properties get added to the game that are like more house style, you know? Like the bungalow. An apartment in the apartment complex by the bungalow would be cool, but also redundant. It's right next to the bungalow, but the suburbs, on the other hand, don't have a safe house right there and would be perfect to use for an actual house. Look, I just love decorating houses in video games, alright? Let me have this. So this didn't really fit nicely in any other section, so it gets to be its own section. I would personally love to see everyone in town be a bit more, like, unique, have a little more personality. Highland Point isn't that big of a place, and it really doesn't have that many people in it. I feel like it'd be pretty doable to give everyone in town their own unique dialogue and shit, right? I've seen some people suggest a friendship mechanic. I've seen some people suggest a dating mechanic, and I think that both of those would be pretty friggin' sweet too, don't get me wrong. But at the very least, I would love to see everyone have a little more personality. Cranky Frankie should not be speaking more or less the exact same as Dollar Store Anthony Fantano here, you dig? Like, why doesn't the obvious Trevor from GTA parody sound like Trevor from GTA? I'm not saying you give every character a novel of shit that they can say, just a little flavor unique to them. Shit, if I understood the first thing about modding, that's something I'd love to take a crack at, but I digress. Now the last section. This is a big one. New locations. I saved the big one for last, so let's go small to big here. I already mentioned I'd love to see more businesses and safe houses and shops, but I'd just love to see more of the interiors get opened up in general. Now, I'm not saying that I need to be able to walk into every house, though something like that would be fun for, I don't know, maybe a burglary mechanic, but I digress. But having at least all of the shops in places like City Hall get opened up would help make our small, humble town feel much bigger, more lived in. Of course, Tyler did mention that he does want to make Highland Point bigger, particularly he wanted to expand the northeast and southwestern portions of the map, but I think that instead of the run-of-the-mill districts you would expect, we could have some fun with it. First of all, I feel like a trailer park is an absolute no-brainer. But I think you could do something really unique with it by having that be a business you could buy. Now this would be like fucking expensive, right? This would be like a late game thing. But I love the idea of having a big ass trailer park that you can launder money in, and you've got a player home in it, and you can have a big ass drug operation in. It would be the ultimate late game property. This is way more out there, but I think that the district themed around a traveling circus that just never travels would be a lot of fun. On top of providing a whole bunch of fun and weird people to sell drugs to, imagine the mixers that you could get from a carnival, right? Elephant ears that give the consumer actual elephant ears and a big ol' elephant trunk. Maybe you get gunpowder from the cannon that'll shoot someone in the air like the bus stop jump. A big old turkey leg that'll make you buff like the strongman. And of course, clown milk. That would give you clown makeup. And a big red nose that honks if you punch it. Plus, imagine all the fun carnival games that you could stick in here. Imagine all the fun prizes you could get from those carnival games. This might be the weirdest pitch that you hear for Schedule 1 ever, but tell me that the Highland Point non-traveling circus would not be hype. Who doesn't want to sell coke to a fucking carny? Alright folks, we're in my very last suggestion, we save the biggest one for last. Different towns. Now maybe this is a bit silly of me, but I assume that you would eventually go back to the tutorial town until I was like 10 hours into the game. And I can't stop thinking about how much fun that would be. Imagine having 2, 3, maybe even 4 towns being able to create a proper cross-country, or at least cross-county, drug network. Of course, these wouldn't be just your basic reskins of Highland Point. I'm thinking you could really make each of these areas feel different by theming them around a different drug. For example, Highland Point's in the middle of the woods, so maybe getting the supplies for the shrooms would be a Highland Point exclusive. Maybe for the tutorial town, since it's a desert, you could have like peyote, or you could go the Breaking Bad route and have some kind of super meth. Maybe there's some kind of rural hillbilly town where you could get a moonshine still, or a big city area that's got the hookup on an MDMA, or you just put heroin in the game and put it in real life Seattle. Plus, you could give each of the towns its own unique strain of weed. Man, you can just keep going with it. Unique cars that you can only buy at certain dealerships, unique cosmetics for you or your houses that you can only get in certain shops. Fuck, I'd love to see if each of these towns had its own unique gang situation. Like maybe the tutorial desert town would have a biker gang, or the big city would have the mafia. I loved that drive from Uncle's house to town, then back to Uncle's house in the beginning of the game, and I yearned for those open roads. Give me new places to drive, new rooms to sling dope to, and I'm the happiest camper in rehab. But I think that about sums up everything I was able to think of. I considered going through the roadmap and giving my full thoughts on everything, elaborating on what I'd like to see from that kind of shit, but this video is already long enough, so if that's something you do want to see, let me know in the comments down there, and while you're in the comments, let me know what kind of crap you would love to see added to Schedule 1. I love the shit out of this game, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like in a year, 2 years, hell, 5 years from now, depending on how long Tyler supports this thing. Holy fuck, this thing's almost a half hour before editing. For real, I'm gonna shut the fuck up now. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Hope, Random Brownson, signing out.